Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Edson Prestes. I'm professor in the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil, and today I will give a quick presentation about my involvement in multilateral efforts in the digital domain. I believe everyone already observed that robotics automation and artificial intelligence can be used in benefit of humanity. Here you can see some examples about of this use like in warehouse, at home to deliver goods, and so on. In recent past, we published some papers about how artificial intelligence and also robotics can be used to attain the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We present some examples about how AI and robotics can be used to create new business models, to fight hunger through the precision farm, and also to support the creation of predictive, personalized healthcare models, and so on. But we also can see a not so good or not good use of this kind of technology. And in this slide, you can see some examples about of the use of AI and robotics in the violation of human rights, like machines that can make some life and death decision and violate the right to life. Some system that can violate our privacy and also violate the right to respect for privacy, manipulating our choice, objectifying people, segregating minorities, and so on. Because of all the potential that this domain for create new opportunity to the global society, and also because the potential misuse of this kind of technology. In 2018, the UN Secretary General established the high-level panel on digital cooperation to think about new models for global cooperation in the digital domain that can ensure a safe, inclusive digital future for everyone. This high-level panel is co-chaired by Melinda Gates and Jack Ma, and has in general 20 members from different parts of the globe. We have a Nobel Prize, James Tirole. We have the father of the internet, Vince Cerf, the former president of Switzerland, and I'm deeply honored to be part of this panel. And as our responsibility was to think in new ways to establish new models for cooperation in the digital domain. Observe that we are discussing digital domain at large, where robotics, artificial intelligence, and automation are part of the digital domain. In this sense, we try to answer these questions. What are the values that individual organizations and countries should support, protect, foster, or prioritize when they work together to address digital issues? Observe that we have a pretty a pretty complex answer for that particular question, because if you think about the global society, we have a certainly different kind of values. Okay, in terms of areas, we also have the same situation. We have different areas that are really important to improve cooperation. And example, we have very good examples. So to answer these questions, we've been involved in different activities, different meetings, different engagements. As panel, we had 3 face-to-face meetings in different parts of the globe with different leaders, head of states. We engage the panel and also the secretariat in 125 engagement activities, that include 44 digital policy events, 10 thematic workshops, 28 briefings, 11 visits to digital hub in capital to try to understand the domain, to try to understand the issues, try to collect some very good examples where the cooperation at the national or regional level works. We've been engaged with more than 4,000 individuals, represented 104 states. After 1 year of discussion, debate, collect data, we published this document called The Age of Digital Interdependence, where this document contains 11 recommendations that goes from infrastructure, like one recommendation that states that is essential that internet, high quality internet, should be affordable, accessible to everyone in the world. And also models for digital cooperation, of course, and some recommendation about artificial intelligence, human rights in the digital age, and so on. Specifically for the human rights and human agents, the recommendation that we put in this report is this one that appear. Given that human rights apply fully in the digital world, it used the UN Secretary General to institute an agency-wide review of how existing international human rights accords and standards apply to new emerging digital technology. We observed that several of this violation happens because the people that are involved in the life cycle of the AI systems do not know how to apply the human rights in that particular context. We also put a specific recommendation about the AI, where you believe that the autonomous intelligent system should be designed in ways that enable that decision to be explained and human to be accountable for their use. Audit and certification schemes should monitor compliance of AI systems with experience in ethical standards, which should be developed using multi-stakeholder multilateral approach. And one is specifically recommendation for laws. Life and death decisions should not be delegated to machines. We hand over these documents to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres past year, and after that, the strategic office of the UN Secretary General established several roundtables for discussing and how to implement each recommendation. So we have here some examples about who was involved in the discussion. Like for the digital human right, we have the involvement of the government of Republic of Korea, European Union, Access Now, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, government of Denmark, New Zealand, Switzerland, for artificial intelligence, the government of Finland, government of France, Future of Life Institute, and so on. Observe that that list is not complete, but you can have access to that list at the UN page. After 1 year after discussion, this year the UN Secretary General launched the roadmap for digital cooperation, where these 11 recommendations were transformed to 8 big recommendations discussing universal connectivity, promoting digital public goods, ensuring the protection of human rights in the digital age, support global cooperation on on AI, and building a more effective architecture for digital cooperation. For this launch, we have the presence of several leaders and head of states, as you can see here, like the president of Switzerland's Confederation, the executive chairman of World Economic Forum, CIO of MasterCard, President of Internet Society, Ministry of Education, Chief Innovation Officer, Sierra Leone, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and so on. That show the importance of the work that was developed. So since this launch of this document, the discussion about the implementation are still happening, of course, okay, because now we have some practical issues to solve it, but we have now a compass to follow. One very important point that deserves to be highlighted is that digital cooperation was one of the items signed and agreed by the head of states in the Declaration of Commemoration of 75th anniversary of United Nations. They agree on improving digital cooperation and recognize that digital technology have profoundly transformed society, and they offer unprecedented opportunity in new challenges. So if you want to take a look in the full document, you can access the link below. As one of result, not exactly one of the results, but are totally aligned with this force, is the elaboration of recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence. In 2019, the member states of UNESCO decided during the General Conference to create a normative instrument in the form of recommendation. The idea of this recommendation is to be a compass to develop national, regional, international standards or national strategies for artificial intelligence. For this proposal, this year, the UNESCO established the ad hoc expert group, which is composed of 24 independent experts. So I'm a member also of this group, and during this year, during the pandemic, we work hard through online virtual modalities to develop this recommendation. And the first version of the recommendation was submitted to a multi-stakeholder process. So we had several consultations across the globe, and we collected this feedback. By the way, this consultation happened from June to August, and we incorporated in a new version that was submitted to UNESCO in September this year. So that is the first page of the document. This document can be accessed in the UNESCO website. And this recommendation provides a universal framework of values, principles, and action to guide states in the formulation of the legislation, policy, and other instruments regarding artificial intelligence. And also aims to promote respect for human dignity and gender equality to safeguard the interests of present and future generations, and to foster multi-stakeholder, multidisciplinary, and pluralistic dialogue about ethical issues related to AI. For us, we consider that AI systems are technological systems which have the capacity to process information in the way that resembles intelligent behavior, and typically include aspects of reasoning, learning, perception, prediction, planning, and control. So we intend to avoid the idea of anthropomorphization of AI systems. That is very important point to avoid any kind of potential misuse of work. Our work is anchored in a set of values and principles like respect, protection, and promotion of human dignity, environment and ecosystem flourishing. And in terms of principles, here I present only a subset, a small subset, like proportionality and do no harm, safety and security, responsibility and accountability. The policy areas of our recommendation are ethical impact assessment, ethical governance, stewardship, data policy, cultural, education, research, economy and labor, health and social well-being. I will present some of the recommendations, the suggestion for actions. One of them is that member states should ensure that any AI governance mechanism is inclusive, transparent, multidisciplinary, and multilateral, and multi-stakeholder, of course. And also that member states should establish mechanisms to ensure the active participation of all member states, especially um, LMICs, in particular LDCs, LLDCs, and SIDS, international discussions concerning AI governance. We also use member states to introduce impact assessment to identify and assess benefits, concerns, and risks of AI systems, as well the risk prevention, mitigation, and monitoring measurements. And also we ask the member state and private sector company to develop due diligence oversight mechanism to identify, prevent, mitigate, and account for how they address the impact of AI system on human rights. We have specific recommendations. Observe that I'm presenting only a small subset. Okay, the full document contains more than around 20 pages. We have a specific recommendation on environment and ecosystem, like we ask the member state to introduce incentive when needed and appropriate to ensure the development and adoption of right-based and ethical AI-powered solutions for disaster risk resilience, the monitoring, protection, and regeneration of the environment and ecosystem, and the preservation of the planet. In terms of gender, the member states should ensure that the potential of AI to improve gender equality is realized. They should guarantee that these technologies do not contribute to exacerbating the already wide gender gaps existing in several fields in analog domains. In terms of education, member states should promote the acquisition of prerequisite skills for AI education, like numeracy, coding, and digital skills, as well as critical thinking, teamwork, communication, socio-emotional, AI ethics skills. Member states also should develop, in accordance with the national education programs and tradition, AI ethics curriculum for all levels. In terms of economy and labor, member states should access and address the impact of the AI system on labor markets and its implication for education requirements. In all countries, with special emphasis on countries where the basic economy is labor intensive. This can include the introduction of a wide range of core and interdisciplinary skills at all levels, educational levels, to provide current workers and new generation a fair chance of finding jobs in the rapidly changing markets. So the next steps are we submit this document in September. Now these documents are being analyzed by the member states, and they are invited to submit the comment and observation no later than the 31 December this year. The idea is that the recommendation is adopted in the next general conference that will take place in November next year. So we hope that the recommendation is adopted. We hope that all our recommendations are accepted. Observe that this recommendation were scrutinized by the global community, and during our discussion, we count on the participation of several representatives of the member states and also some key stakeholders. received this feedback, we incorporated this feedback in the document. So this document is really a global instrument. Thank you so much. If you have any further questions, please let me know. We have here my email and my homepage and my LinkedIn address. Thank you so much for listening.